Okay, welcome to the video lesson for lesson 10. I had to look at my sheet because we're not starting with lesson 10, we're actually starting with lesson 9. We're skipping lesson 9, but it's because it's kind of an easy lesson. We're just going to do one of the activities and then you'll get the gist of lesson 9, which we'll use to help us with lesson 10. So this is a two category table. And this is what we would call bivariate data. There's a few different variables here. You'll notice going vertically, we have gender, male and female. And then going horizontally, we have these different superhero traits or abilities. Okay, so I'll just abbreviate superhero abilities. And then there is some data filled in, but not all the data. This is an example of what you'll need to be able to do. You'll understand that each row has a total at the end, all the way to the right. Each column has a total all the way to the bottom. So we can start anywhere where we think we could fill in, like right here, the females plus the males for the ability to fly has to total 100. So if I have 49 females, I must have 51 males, right? This one here would be easy, super strength. If it totals 26 and I have 25, then this must be 1, right? Let's do another one here. This one here would be tricky, and so would this one because I have 48. But what I know is all of these have to add up to 450. So if I were to add 100, 131, 26, 118, and then subtract that from 450, I would get, I think it's 375 is what I get when I add them. So I end up with 75 as my answer for invisibility. Then coming up with this answer right up here, well, 75 minus 48 is 27. Telepathy, I know that they total 118, but I don't have any information above it, so I can't do this one yet. But that's the key. Now, let's look over here. 228 plus some number equals 450. Well, that would be simple. I don't even have to add anything. I can just do 450 minus that, and I get 222. Now, because I have all these other fields filled in for males, I can add 51, 71, 27, and 25 and subtract that from 222, and I get 48. Now I have one number above here, so I can say 118 minus 48, and I've got 70. And now I have one field left. You can do that a number of ways. Do 131 minus 71. That's probably the fastest, and you get 60. So that's how you fill out a two-category bivariate table. This we're going to use for our actual lesson 10, which I'll meet you at page 61 right in a few seconds. Okay, so we're over on page 61, and this is the beginning of lesson 10. So this lesson expands on your work with two-way frequency tables from lesson 9. That's why we started this lesson with that two-way or bicategorical, bivariate categorical data. So we're going to take a look at this, and obviously you can see this is the same table we just filled in before this. And now we're going to do the two-way frequency table, but we're going to convert those to decimals, okay? So the relative frequency would be found by dividing each of the above cells by 450. In other words, by the grand total. This 450 here is what we use for each of these cells, and along the outer edges, the totals, okay? So you can see a few have already been done for you. They're rounding out 3 decimal places. So you will need a calculator for this. Let's do one together. Let's do this one here. We've got 51, so we'll do 51 divided by 450. So all of them are dividing by the same number, 450. And we get 0.113, and the 3 is repeating. So we come back, and in this cell or this field, we're going to do 51 divided by 450. And then the squiggly equal sign means about, and then we got 0.113. Okay. I'm not going to write what I divided by for each of these, but I am going to fill in the answers. However, I'm going to pause the recording. So pause the video, see if you can answer these all on your own, and then check your answers when we come back. All right, so we're back. I filled in the answer for all of the remaining fields. You can go ahead and check yours. So essentially, we converted all of these to decimals. And now we're going to take that to the next step over on page 62. And we're going to fill in this field. Hold on, let me go here. If you want to check your answers, well, there is a key provided, but you can pause the recording and then check it, or pause the video. And then I'm going over to the next one now. And we're going to just calculate, this says right as a decimal. We already did that. Now we're going to convert them all to percents. How do you do that? Well, I'm going back to the one that I had already done, the 0.113 repeating. And the way you convert a decimal to a percent is you multiply it by 100. Now, we're only going one decimal after, so it would be 11.3%. So if I go back over here, this is the one that I had actually done, the first one here. So if I multiply by 100, now some of you may already know the secret to this step is actually just moving the decimal 2 places to the right. But that's okay. If you can't remember that, do this a couple of times, and then it'll become very obvious to you what you do. But we're going to write all of these now as percents, and you're going to fill in the whole table. So I'm going to pause the recording. You can pause the video and try it on your own. Come back and check your answers. Okay, so here are the answers. You can go ahead and start checking yours. While you are, I want to just talk about a couple things. So again, just like in the very beginning, if you add up the rows and you add up the columns, they should equal what you have in the totals. However, in the table above, the decimal, and the table here, the percent, these values are rounded. So you may find a slight error in a couple of these. So for instance, if I look at the total here, 50.7, and this one, 49.3, they do add up to 100%. So that is fine. But if I were to add 15.6 and 10.7, I would get 26.3%. And down here, you'll notice I have 26.2. So what happened? Well, these values were rounded up. And because they were rounded up, then there is a slight error. Not much, but a very slight error. It doesn't mean that we're wrong. I just wanted to make sure that you understand why some of your totals might not be exact and why some of them are. I think actually all of them will look pretty good, except for this right here is off by 0.1%, which is acceptable. Okay. So, however, if we add all of these across, they do, I believe, total 100%. So everything seems to be working out okay anyways. All right, so now we have a few questions below. We're going to answer them. The first one I'm going to help you with. Based on previous work with frequency tables, which cells in this table would represent the joint relative frequencies? So the joint relative frequency cells are represented by the unshaded cells. That's all of these in the middle or within the body of the table. So joint relative frequency. So, to fly, females that want to fly, that's a joint. And then there's two things that are joined together, and there's the frequency of them. So that's what that means. You've got three more questions. Which cells in the relative frequency table would be represented by the marginal relative frequencies? I'm not going to read all of them. Why don't you try them on your own? I'm going to pause the recording. When you come back, take a look at the answers and see how you do. Okay, so we're back. So the answers for 3, 4, and 5 are here. I want you to go ahead and check your answer with what you see here with the answer key, and then bring it up in class if you have any questions. Essentially, I don't think this is going to be a very difficult thing to understand. Once you are able to fill in the table, whether it is what we did in the very beginning, knowing what numbers go where, or converting them to a decimal, or converting them to a percent, then you use those numbers to essentially answer these questions. And it's pretty straightforward. And then it's just understanding which is the marginal and which is the joint frequency. The marginal is, I think that's pretty self-explanatory. It's the margins or outside, but it is not this one in the very corner. That the grand total, if you will. That one is different. But that's pretty much it. So like I said, if you have any questions, bring them up in class. Otherwise, I will see you in math.